So why are in questions so important in a sales meeting? Well, for starters, if you haven't seen it, go back and watch the last video on flipping the script. We talked about putting questions first and not even talking about who we are as far as our product, our business, and how great we are. We put that to the back. So, why are questions so darn important? Well, for starters, if you're like me, a nice guy entrepreneur, you don't like to boast, you don't like to brag, you may be a little humble. It just feels uncomfortable to even when we're around another salesperson who is boasting and bragging, they're so full of themselves. It's important that we try to be confident, but there's overconfident, right? So by starting off with questions, that gives us a little bit of permission to kind of take that back seat and not really boast or brag. You'll get that chance and it won't come across as boasting or bragging. So put that in your hip pocket. You'll come back to that later after the questions. A second thing that asking questions do is if you don't like to do a lot of talking, um, it gives you the control to put the ball over into their court. It allows you to lob it over there and let them respond. In other words, you ask a question and then you encourage them to respond. And if you do it right, most of your questions are going to be open-end questions. So, as far as a balance of possession of talking, if you will, I'd say it's an 80-20 rule. They should be talking 80% of the time during this question period, and you only 20%, if that. And you're just going to be able to come up with your own questions to help drive this conversation, which brings me to point number three. Asking questions gives them the perception that they're in control because they are talking 80% of the time and you only 20% of the time. That gives them that perception that they have the power in this conversation. But in reality, it's you. You're the one driving. You ask the question, they reply, they respond. That gives you the control. And if the conversation starts turning in an inconvenient manner, you can change your questions up and control the conversation once again. So that's another great thing. And fourth, for you, the obvious thing is it helps you learn. It really helps you learn about them. You should do a lot of research before you even start conversing with somebody about, doing business together. But you know, we need to still fill out some blank spaces. So by asking questions, it gives us that opportunity. We should not make assumptions and we should find out the facts and the details. And it's best to help them or hear it from them directly. Another thing is it allows you to gain insight into some of their emotions because if you're asking the right questions, it can open up some emotional responses from them. So not only are you getting the facts, but you're also getting some of the feelings as well. And people don't really buy from facts. Even in the B2B world, you'd be surprised on how much you can make emotion a part of the buying decision. So keep that in mind. Now, what are the benefits for starting off with questions for them? Well, number one, for their side, ego. Ego. We all love talking about ourselves. So when someone asks you a question, your body just loves to answer it, right? It's it's cathartic. It's wow, this is really cool that someone really wants to know more about my business, wants to know more about my house, wants to know more, about how we made it through those rough times and here we are, a big successful company, whatever it is. They want to tell you that story, and the fact that you're asking them about it, they will eat that up, and it puts them at ease, which is the number two reason for them. People don't like to be sold to, right? We don't like to be sold to. We have had so many bad experiences of being sold to that when we have a potential salesperson in front of us, the moment we feel that they're being salesy, and we're being sold to, there we go. That old crossing the arms, lean back, disengagement. But when you lead with questions, they lean forward and they want to share, right? So it disarms them, right? It takes the edge off of the conversation and it disarms them. Now, here's where it really gets important. Now, questions, we can talk about some great salespeople and sales processes that we use today. Corporate sales is all about consultative selling and relationship selling, which are all great things, and they will use a lot of questions. So, what we've covered so far, great. But here's where the nice process really kicks in, and keep following. In fact, subscribe, like, and follow along, because in a future video, I'm going to take you through the NICE process, which is specific questions that will help us do this next part. Because the next benefit that asking questions helps us in the sales call is it helps them uncover some of their pains that they didn't realize that they were living with, right? That they just assumed that they had to live with, perhaps. So either they didn't know they had a pain and you help them discover it, or they've known they've always had this pain and they didn't think that they could do anything about it, that it was just part of their industry or part of their lifestyle, whatever it may be. So it helps them uncover some of the pain points that they have, and they just needed some guidance that they did have it. And guess what? If you would have came off and said, "Hey, you have a problem and I'm here to fix it," right? That sounds like a nice Ice Baby kind of song, right? You have a problem and I'm here to solve it, right? It's that goes back to the whole salesy thing. And no one really wants that. I don't want that as a salesperson, nor would I want that as the person being sold to. But if the questions, if they're strategic questions, phrased properly, asked in a genuine and authentic manner because you're there to help, and asked in even the right order, you can help them uncover their own pain points and discover them on their own without you having to tell them and point them out yourself. That is very powerful. Think of it as a mental wellness counselor or therapist, right? No one's sitting down on the couch for a sales call, but if you are asking the questions that help them realize where these problems are coming from and that they shouldn't feel that they have to run their business with those problems and pain points, or they shouldn't have to live their personal lives with this figurative pain, maybe a literal pain, then that's so much more powerful, right? One of my favorite philosophers, he was a physicist as well as a mathematician, Blaise Pascal. I'll have to paraphrase it here, but he says, "We are more convinced by our own selves than we are by that of others." Right? In other words, if I told you you had a problem and I'm here to fix it, you wouldn't believe me so much as if you discovered your problem and noticed I was here to fix it. And if I helped you discover that problem on your own, that's even better. And that's why we're here. That is exactly why we're here as salespeople. So it's very powerful. These questions are so critical. Now, asking the right questions in the right order, in the right way, that is uniquely to your product and your clientele's, your buyer's pain and problems, that comes next. That's part of the NICE sales process. So please follow along, subscribe. You'll see that video coming up shortly. And in the meantime, please, down below, tell me what your pain points are. If I can, I'm going to help script up some questions that are going to help you with your pain. And if you also want some help on scripting some questions for you to help your client, your potential client, I'll see if I can help with that as well. So just remember, guys, nice guys finish and outlast.